2 to 3 hours in the morning is worth 6 hours in the afternoon. So I never will schedule a meeting in the morning. It's really important to me that I get my big project done in the morning. And I will get that project done before I ever look at my inbox or open up Instagram. Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or soul-centered entrepreneur or wellness practitioner who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hey, I wanted to tell you a quick note. I'm doing a series in the Sunlight Podcast on behind the scenes business lessons and some of the best advice and learnings that I've experienced as an entrepreneur. These next couple of episodes are going to focus on really key, exciting things that you can implement in your creative business, in your care-based business. These episodes are especially helpful for you during these summer months, getting your business operations to be as smooth and working as well for you as they possibly can. So I hope you enjoy this behind the scenes entrepreneurial series in the Sunlight Podcast. Hello, welcome. I am so excited to talk to you today about how I structure my day for maximum focus. This has been a lifelong struggle for me. My mom thinks I have undiagnosed ADHD. She does too. And so I've always been a sort of head in the clouds person who really had a hard time focusing on things I'm not interested in, which has definitely informed my career choices. I went for the career that I was really, really interested in because that's where I can succeed. I'm just not good at doing things I don't care about. So I want to paint a picture for you to see if you can relate to a work day where you're trying to get a lot of stuff done. If you are working for yourself, you always have more to do than you possibly could get done in a day. And I want to paint a picture of what often happens, certainly used to happen to me all the time and might be happening to you. You come into your workday expecting to get a whole bunch done. You have a lot on your plate, right? You've got a million people who need things for you, clients you need to deliver to, vendors, just various people who need things from you. Plus, you have your own projects you want to work on, right? Often the things that are important in your business are not the things that are urgent in your business. And those important but not urgent things tend to fall way down the list and just not get done for years and years and years. So, do you ever come into your, office, spare bedroom, wherever you work, and start the day by checking your email, maybe even by checking, some internet sites and random clickable content like reading the New York Times, reading going through Instagram? And you open your inbox and a client has a complaint about something. Maybe there's like a refund request or somebody sort of feels upset about some wording you used in an email somewhere. And you suddenly feel in an emotional place, a sort of anxious emotional space. And I don't know about you, but I have studied my own behavior on Instagram. And when I am in an anxious emotional space, that's when my instinct is to open Instagram. I think it's because you're looking for those endorphins of social approval. And so maybe then you open Instagram, you're kind of feeling yuck, and you go to Instagram sort of hoping that, maybe somebody liked your post or there'll be some comments and you can have some little bit of connection, and you get distracted by this thing that goes, on the scroll, and then this thing and DMs from people. And pretty soon an hour of your day has gone by and you feel in a terrible, anxious headspace. And a million people need things from you, and you forgot what your own priorities for the day even were, right? This, to me, is how you can really waste a lot of time in your day. And this is how I used to waste a lot of time. And because my only boss in my business is me, and the work only gets done if I actually do it. It has been critical to the success of my business to learn how to get things done, right? And it's hard. It's especially hard when you're running a business because you literally have more work than you can get done. So if you don't have priorities and you don't have a system, it's just not going to work. All right, so I want this episode to be super, super strategic and helpful for you. I'm going to go through really exactly the learnings I've had about maintaining focus and how I implement those learnings into practices I use and you can use in your business. This episode is really universal. This is not just for self-employed people, although you are probably suffering the worst from this if you're self-employed. Feel free to share this with a friend if they could use it. If you find these tips useful, please let me know. And when you share it with a friend, of course, it helps the content that I spend a lot of time producing get out in the world and reach more ears. So let's jump in to how I structure my day for focus. So the summer is a really great time for you to get your head around this too, because this is a time where a lot of us kind of either have big projects we want to get done. If you are a teaching artist or a person who has more time in the summer, then you probably have put off things throughout the year saying like, okay, I'll get to that in the summer. I'll get to that in the summer. And of course, by the time summer rolls around, you're like, cannot possibly get done all the things on that list. Or you might want to spend your summer with your kids. They're out of school or like spending time with family, right? So a lot of times the summer has a little bit of a different vibe. And I actually think this is the perfect time for some real insight on focus, because changing your habits is really difficult. And when you have a shift of circumstance, a shift of rhythm, a shift of schedule, it is the best time to instill a new habit. So maybe this is a good time for you to listen to this episode, because now is a good time to start trying to implement habits that help you more be successful. All right. A couple episodes back, I mentioned I was talking about hiring, my tips for hiring for the first time in your business. And I mentioned that I have done time studies, right? Time studies have an incredible, important role to play when you're hiring, to outline tasks that you spend your day on, how much time they actually take you. And it can help you see where you should hire. But time tracking is also important in order to help you focus. Tracking what you spend your time on in the day and how long things are taking you. It's important to have compassion for yourself as you do this, because a lot of times you're seeing stuff on there that you don't want to see, right? You're seeing bad habits. But it's important to take a cold eye and look at them compassionately and without judgment. Say, okay, do I need to be spending 90 minutes on Instagram every day? What is eating up my time that shouldn't be, or that I could reduce how much it eats up my time, that I can contain this activity or sort of box it in so it doesn't invade the rest of my productive time? And am I getting done the things I want to be getting done? And how could I do that better? It's also important, I think, personally, to sort of pay attention to yourself, your own personal rhythm. If you're a morning person, if you're a night owl, this is going to be different. You know, when you have your most productive hours of the day, I personally have spent a lot of time focusing on what are my most productive hours of the day. And once I've identified that, for me, that is the morning. I keep the morning sacred. Never, ever, ever will I schedule a meeting in the morning if I can help it, because 2 hours of work time in the morning is worth 6 hours of afternoon work time. My focus is that good. And in the afternoon, it gets that bad. So to me, if you can identify the time of day that you work with the most focus and put guardrails around that time so that you keep it really sacred and you do your hardest work, your most strategic work, the work that really takes your fullest attention, I think that is probably my number one tip for you to be really powerful and focused in the work that you do. So for me, that's the morning. We're going to get into exactly how I guardrail my mornings. Okay. So I did a time study. I've done this several times over several different years, and it's interesting to see how it's changed. Time studies are misery. I hate them. I'm not going to tell you that I think they're fun, but I will tell you that I think they are incredibly valuable and worth it. So here's how to do a time study. I said this a couple episodes in the tips for hiring episode, and it's good for that too. You can use the same time study for both, kill two birds with one stone here. But here's how I recommend doing a time study. Just take a sheet of paper and you're just going to document just about every 10-minute increment of your time for the day. So maybe once per hour, and you're spending no more than 1 minute every hour. You're going to go back through the hour and document every 10-minute chunk. So maybe for 25 minutes, maybe for 30 minutes, you're checking email, 20 minutes, you're on Instagram, and then 10 minutes, you are, printing out some W-9s and sending them to people. I don't know. So you want to kind of document at that level of detail. Okay, so that's how I recommend you do the time study. 1 week is the minimum. I do recommend 2 weeks for a really good look at it. All right. So what I discovered when I started doing time tracking for myself, doing a time study, was that there are certain activities that scatter my attention and scatter my focus. Those two activities, the chief culprits, are email and Instagram. So here's how I deal with those two attention scattering items. I basically have tried to corral them so that they take up the minimum amount of my day as possible, because those are two items that just want to leak into everything else. So my whole goal in making my day focused and efficient is keeping email and Instagram from leaking into the rest of my work time. So here's how I do that for email. First of all, and this will horrify some of you, but it really works. I have really trained all of my clients, my staff, everyone who ever interacts with me, that I check email once a day. I know this will horrify a lot of you. There are a lot of you who literally respond to every message within the hour or even immediately. The human brain cannot. It takes you about 20 minutes to refocus when you've been interrupted. So I don't know about you, but you are probably getting an email certainly more than once every 20 minutes, I would think. And so if you are being interrupted that much, you literally will not have any focus time in your day. I take that really seriously. I am more distractible than the average bear. And I'm not capable of pulling my attention back. And I don't know about you, but I have found that when I go through my inbox and sort it, email is other people's to-do list for me. It's not my priorities. It's other people's priorities. I'm not saying those things aren't important, but they aren't what I need to get done in my business. Or what I should say is they are what I need to get done in my business, but they're not the primary thing, right? So I get to decide the priorities in my business. And I, of course, need to deliver to my clients and respond to my vendors, et cetera. But those things can come after I complete my priorities, my project for making a new course, my marketing campaign for the next launch, whatever it is, I do actually need to get those big projects done too. So I set aside time at the end of the day, and it tends to be the same time every day, between 3 and 5, depending on where my schedule is for the day, is when I check my email, and I try to give it no more than an hour. In a slower time of year, I will give it maybe 20 to 30 minutes. I know that might just seem really, really hard, but I promise you, you can do it. And if you can't do it, there are ways that you could make it maybe twice a day, right? It could be noon and 4 p.m. But to me, I never, ever, ever check email first thing, because as soon as I open my inbox, my brain starts ticking on the various things that people in the inbox need from me, right? And sometimes that content can be a little emotional, right? What if there's a problem, right? What if a client is unhappy? What if you messed up somewhere? What if there's something unpleasant waiting for you in your inbox? This can happen, right? And that can derail my whole day. That can actually take the most productive part of my day and throw it off track. So I simply do not let that happen. I am very disciplined about not opening my email in the morning. I don't touch it until noon or late morning. And once you work up to having an assistant, you can put even better guardrails in place. And at this point, I have that. But before I had an assistant, I would just have a hard and fast rule, no email before noon. And sticking to that has really helped my productivity. So at this point, now that I have an assistant, he sorts my inbox, and we actually sort it into action today and action this week. So stuff that doesn't have to get touched today is going actually into a separate folder. And I can just go through that folder during a longer emailing session once per week on Friday. So I won't even look at stuff that isn't urgent, right? I am only responding to the email that has to get responded to. This is how I can expand the time that I have in the day for bigger projects, right? Priorities of mine. I will say that sometimes things are urgent, and sometimes you're looking in your inbox to make sure there's nothing urgent in there. But while you're in there, all these little things are pinging around and kind of making your brain go to other places, which actually makes it hard to reel your brain back in and focus on a project that takes a lot of brain power, which is why I find the inbox so destructive to my attention. So what I have set up now that I do have an assistant is I have him note any emails where there's an urgent request or an urgent need that needs me. And so my assistant will get my attention if there is something like that, right? And occasionally I'm waiting for something like there's a deadline, there's a contract negotiation, something has to be responded to as soon as it comes in. I will tell him, I'm looking for this email from my lawyer or from this person I am making an arrangement with, and I'm going to need to respond as soon as that comes in. So you have my permission to interrupt me and tell me when that happens. That way I can focus, and I know I will be alerted when I need to be. Okay, that's a lot on email. That's a lot on email, but I find email to be such a time sink and such an attention waster. It just scatters my attention to the four corners and I can't bring it back in. I actually have paid a lot of attention. I have done like emotional tracking as well in my business, because I'm a very empathetic person, and it really matters to me when when a client feels like they need attention in a certain area, or, somebody's unhappy. It really affects me. And so I also want to be really careful about how I spend my emotional energy. I want to be fully present emotionally in my work for the people who need me, but I need to be very careful about it so that I am not just like bleeding with my heart open every hour of every day, because that is not sustainable. That is a quick path to burnout. So when I have paid attention to the emotional quality of my day, what I notice is that I feel more tired after I check my email. It really actually drains my energy. So that if I have had a session kind of going back and forth, doing this email, that email, printing this thing for that person, getting this person that thing they need, responding with this client, to sort of like, oh, this client needs captions on this video because they, have a different learning style. And how do I set up that? And I task that out to my team, right? So when you're doing all that contact switching, moving from one type of work to another, that's one of the things that I find particularly exhausting about email, that it will bring you where you don't get to focus on one type of work at a time, like keep your brain in one mode. Your brain is switching from like client service mode to, to pitch mode, to legal mode, to accounting mode, like back and forth and back and forth. doing. So it's like your brain is getting this incredible, intense workout. And then when you try to come back and do something that requires your focus, it's gone. Your energy is gone. So this is another reason that I really try hard to corral my email behavior, because email is just exhausting. So this is why I save it for the end of the day, because I want to be at my most powerful when I come into work in the morning. All right. That was a lot on email. Feel free to send me a DM if you have strategies for email. I am always looking for better strategies, but that is what I've got so far. Instagram is another one. To be totally honest, I have, read a lot of the research about how damaging Instagram is for, people's attention span and emotions. I have found that I tend to check Instagram when I'm in an anxious emotional state. It's like a seeking behavior, which is actually designed, right? It is designed by the makers of Instagram to keep you coming in and keep you in there. And the fact that the story that somebody responded to will disappear in 24 hours. Well, what are they setting up for you? They're wanting you to be on there every 24 hours. And I am so upset about being manipulated in that way that I really reject it. So I started this podcast that you are listening to right now as a way to form a genuine emotional connection with my audience, with people like you who want to hear the entrepreneurship lessons and the tax information that I am here to dispel in the format that I want to give it, and that showcases my ability to teach the best way, which is more than a 90-second reel, right? I don't need to dance in order to show you how to do your taxes, right? So I want to perform my business in the way that is best suited to my particular skills and abilities. And I want to connect with people in a way that feels genuine to me, and that feels good for me to be dispelling and for you to be consuming. So that's why I put so much focus on this podcast. And yes, of course, I promote the podcast on Instagram. It is a great platform for that. Anyone with a business, any of you who are self-employed, who are trying to get visibility, you know the trap of Instagram. You sort of feel like you have to be on it, as I do. But I have tried to minimize its presence in my life as much as possible, right? I tend to use it now as a search tool to connect with people, right? I just discovered a new person and I'm kind of interested in learning a little more about them. Yeah, I will look them up on Instagram. I will look at some of the reels they've posted to get to know them a little bit and maybe reach out to them in their DMs. And I usually try to take it off Instagram as quickly as I can. So I use Instagram like a dictionary. I look stuff up as a reference, and then I go back to the other stuff I'm doing, right? So that's how I like to use Instagram. I know it can be really tricky when you are running your business and gaining visibility through it, right? So I'm fully aware of and a part of that conflict, but I do try to reduce the amount of time I'm on it. And I will say this, now that I have an assistant, and this is something that you can hire an assistant to do as well for just, 2 hours a week, maybe 5 hours a week, this is a great place to start, is I have my assistant post my social media content for me. And I actually have my assistant tell me when I have urgent things to respond to on Instagram, so that on days where there isn't anything, I don't open it at all. This is really helpful to me because Instagram is one of the other things besides email that just scatters my attention. It is built to be addictive. It is built to hook you in and keep you on the platform. And I feel so manipulated when I'm on it. I just want to get off and get back to my work. Okay. So next, in how I structure my day for focus, I have a planner. If you get my weekly newsletter, I will send a photograph of this planner out as I talk about this podcast episode, the day that it drops. So I'll send you a picture of this planner, but I like to plan out my big 3 for the day. So I like to just name for myself, what are the big 3 things I want to accomplish today. These could be my big 3 projects. I might not get to all projects in a day. And in fact, sometimes it's better to focus on one. But sometimes my goal for the day is like, what are just 3 tasks that have to get done today? Sometimes these are tiny, right? When I'm in the phase of the year where I'm in my studio, when my tax practice is kind of closed down to minimum viable, then I often have to, do things to maintain my sunlight tax, but I'm trying to be present in my studio as an artist. So the big 3 might just be, I need to send this one email to check in with somebody. I need to sign that contract, or I need to get a W-9 to that person, right? It might be something pretty simple where I could check off the whole list in 10 minutes, but I just want to make sure I get those things done, right? So I like to name the 3 things I want to get done for the day. And sometimes the thing I want to get done is like figure out a certain color in my studio. Sometimes the thing I want to do is I'm delivering a workshop and, I know I'm going to do it. It's on the schedule, but maybe the thing I want to do is like remember to feel the gratitude that really fills me up when I'm delivering a great, one of my best workshops, right? So sometimes I will actually put like, remember to feel the gratitude. And that will be like one of my top priorities for the day. So my big 3 can really vary a lot, from projects to tiny tasks to like a feeling that I want to have or connect with. But that's what I do. I lay out my big 3 for the day. Also on my planner, I block out my hours. So I have on the right-hand column, like sort of like list of the hours of the day. And I'll put any meetings I've got in there just because I am so capable of like getting deeply involved in a project and like missing a meeting because I forget. So I make sure those things are very clear. And when I say on my planner, I have a paper planner where I do all this stuff. And part of that is I actually really like to get away from my computer and my technology as much as I possibly can. If I could do my whole workday without ever looking at a screen, I would. This is why I do all my consultations over the phone. So I'm talking to people and I don't have a screen in between me. And also, so I'm not captive at my desk. I love to pace. I like to weed my garden while I talk. Sometimes I like to doodle. So it's, to me, I actually find that I can focus better on what somebody is saying. So I can be more present with a client if I can get that wiggly part of myself sort of under control. And that can be through doodling, and that can be through pacing my office or actually walking circles around my house. So this is why I stay away from my computer. If I have the option to do a screen-free meeting with someone, I will. So, and if you happen to live in the same town as I'm in, or if I'm traveling, I will do in-person meetings because I find them honestly just so much more engaging and gratifying that I really love in-person meetings, and I will take a phone meeting over a Zoom meeting any day. So I block out the meetings that I have for the day, and I try to chunk out, okay, between this meeting and this meeting, I'm going to do this project. So I really chunk out where my work times are going to be. I start the day with my priorities. So I start the day, as I was talking about, like the morning is my most productive time. And so I put guardrails around my morning, and I try to prepare to have the best morning that I possibly can. To me, the way that I'm going to be the most focused and productive as a wiggly person is I need to exercise. So getting exercise, for one thing, is the best way for my brain to get going. If I don't exercise, I just don't feel as smart. So to feel smart, to feel focused, it's actually really important for me to get my heart rate up. So every single day I go for a long walk. I drop my kids off at school and then I go for a walk. Usually in this walk, I like use my walk to, just like walk into a coffee shop, to sort of be out in the world, to get the sun on my face. I'm doing it to get exercise, but I also use this time to do audio learning. So I do buy a lot of online courses. I just bought one that's about being a great writer. And so I will like put my headphones in and I will be listening to a course or podcasts. So I'm often kind of trying to educate myself and do like input on my morning walk. And so I take a nice, really long walk, but during that walk, I am learning. And I think of it as a time, like there is something about that motion of walking that really makes my brain engage and starts bringing ideas. It's like an idea generating time for me. As a painter, my morning walk is always the place where I get my painting ideas. And as a business owner, my morning walk is where I get my business ideas. There is something about the morning and walking in the morning that is generative to me. And so to me, it's sacred. And I really can't do without it at this point. It is that important to me. In fact, when it's a really rainy day, my whole family groans and they're like, oh my God, mom's going to be in such a bad mood because they all know how trained I am on this. So that's what I do on my walk. I also do as much sort of like dictation as I can in my phone. So I actually get some tasks done also while I'm on my walk. This is also part of how I justify taking such a long walk. I walk for about 90 minutes every morning, but I also, I will dictate notes to my assistant on my walk or, Vox him. If you don't know Voxer, it's a great like walkie-talkie app where you can send voice messages to your team or to your friends. So I do that. I'll Vox my assistant. I will dictate with voice memos. I will dictate emails that I want to send. I will go through my Google Docs, which I have as an app on my phone, and I will actually maybe even make some edits in documents there. Like I will list out things. In fact, because my walk is such a time where my brain engages, I do some of my writing on my walk. So I will dictate writing into Google Docs or into my notes app. So I really use my walk in a lot of different ways, but it sort of shapes my input. It starts my ideas. It knocks a couple of my tasks for the day off. And it is just a sacred time for me. It also gets me in the headspace of like having ideas kind of going and flowing and feeling really ready. Not to mention it gets my yayas out, right? So like when I'm home from my walk, I sit down at my desk and I'm a little bit tired and I have that like runner's high feeling and I'm like enthusiastic, energetic, in a good mood and like ready to hit my day hard. So that is the sacredness of my walk. And it's how I set up those first minutes at my desk to be super, super productive. I always on my walk in my notes app, I have one note called, what is it called? I'm in it right now. It's called the list of everything. And in my list of everything, I will always put my little agenda for the day. So like, these are the 3 things I want to get done today. The big 3 always goes there. And if there's any little tasks I want to remember to do on my walk, I will dictate to myself what those are so that I can make sure I get them done. So that's how I do my walk. I arrive at my desk feeling really good, right? Because the walk makes me feel good. That's half of why I do it. And my day is already planned out because I have done that on my walk. I also, on my walk, identify the very first thing I want to do when I get to my desk. So I usually have a first goal. Often that is recording the podcast. And here we are right now after my walk. And I'm recording the podcast. So that because the podcast takes a lot of thought and organization. And so to me, it's one of the sort of big and hard tasks. It's critical to my business. And, I want to be in a good mood for you. I don't want to do it after I've been responding to refund requests, right? Because then I tend to be, or even on Instagram, right? Because I tend to be in a sort of like more grouchy mood at that time. Who would want to listen to that podcast? So if you're ever wondering why I seem sort of optimistic and sunny, like that is very deliberate. I'm really paying attention to the emotional moments of my day and when I can bring you the best of me. So that's in the morning. So once I've identified my priorities for the day, my first task of the day, I always conquer the hardest task of my day first thing. That is, eat the frog. That is what I do first thing. I do that whether I'm painting or whether I'm working in sunlight tax. So that might be recording my podcast. It might be figuring out some difficult piece of tech. It might be writing. A lot of times it is writing, because though I love writing, it takes a lot of focus and attention, and I cannot be interrupted, or it kind of can all scatter. So those focus tasks, the hardest, most focus requiring task of my day is always going to be first. I try to chunk out 2 to 3 hours to get that done, like to have that space. 2 to 3 hours in the morning is worth 6 hours in the afternoon. So I never will schedule a meeting in the morning. It's really important to me that I get my big project done in the morning. And I will get that project done before I ever look at my inbox or open up Instagram. I usually have a team meeting in the middle of the day, so I check in with my assistant. So that happens. And because of time zone things, I have had to make that meeting earlier than I ideally would like to. I used to have my meetings at 4 p.m. when I had an assistant who was in the same time zone. Now they're a little earlier, but even so, I make sure I've got 2 hours to work in the morning. In the afternoon, I had to learn the hard way, because I used to work through lunch all the time, that I started burning out and getting scared of my workday when I skipped lunch. So over time, I have come to learn that putting a little space in my day for a nice lunch and just like go walk in my garden, go like listen to a podcast that has nothing to do with my day, eat a nice salad and like, weed a little bit is like just refreshing. It's like really nice to kind of get away from stuff. And I actually find that having good ideas comes more easily when you release your brain from the task, right? Your best ideas come from you, not when you're trying to focus your brain on having a good idea. They actually come from when you've been focused on it and then you walk away from it, right? I don't know how many of you have gotten an incredible idea in the shower, but that's a real phenomenon. And that's why. It's because you were not doing the thing when you're in the shower, but the idea can just flow into you. So lunch, I put it on my calendar so that people can't schedule meetings during it. I try to keep it as sacred as I can. And I try not to work through lunch, because I used to do that. And when I did, I found that although I could have a single day that was very productive, over time, it would eat away at my desire to do the work at all. And I started burning out. So lunch is important. In the afternoon, I don't know about you, but I tend to get a bit of a slump. I think a lot of us do. And so I try to schedule my day so that I can kind of mitigate the slump that I know is pretty natural. If I had to rely on myself during the afternoon slump, I would be pretty likely to just walk away and like not get anything done. Or that would be the time I would start just surfing the internet or scrolling on Instagram and wasting time. And honestly, if I'm going to be at work but not working, I'd rather just quit. I'd rather just quit work and like go to the studio or do something else. So in the afternoon, my strategy is to schedule meetings. I do my people time in the afternoon. For me, this really works because I am technically an extrovert. I find myself energized around other people. So I make my client meetings in the afternoon. When I give workshops and lectures about taxes, I tend to do those in the afternoon because those really energize me. Also, they're on the calendar. And so it does force me to stay at work when if it was only me and I wasn't accountable, I might quit. I might just take off for the day. So it is how I get more out of my day, is by scheduling the people stuff, the meetings, the client time, and the, lectures and workshops and the like big delivery items is what I do in the afternoon after my nice lunch. And then after that, I do email. I get to my hour of email. And if I'm totally honest, it's very imperfect. And sometimes I go too far on the side of ignoring my email. But the trade-off is that I get a lot of shit done. So I get a lot done. I do a lot in my business. I move really fast and I'm a little addicted to that. And sometimes responding to email is the thing that suffers, to be totally honest. This is always a balance for me. It is always something I am trying to work on. But, if I could never touch email again, I would. I don't love it. So That's how I manage my day. And that is how I structure it to have the maximum amount of concentrated focus time and to understand my own rhythms of emotion, of energy, and of productivity, and even of enjoyment, so that I just enjoy my days and I get the work done that I intend to. So I hope that's been helpful for you. Send me a DM if you had a takeaway from this, if you felt a light bulb go off, if some of this resonates with you, or if if you think I'm bananas, maybe you do. I'd love to know. Tell me what you think. And I want to tell you, just speaking of the summer and being productive and getting things done in a more focused way so you can spend more of your time doing the stuff that is meaningful for you, I wanted to let you know that I recorded a private podcast series that is my secret sauce episodes. They are sort of the best of what I have to offer. They answer some of the most frequent questions that I get in my business. And I really designed this 4-episode private podcast series to give you some of the understanding that helps you really know in your bones why things have been hanging you up in your business. Okay. So just to give you an example, episode number 1 is about how to pay yourself. In this episode, I teach you the accounting principle behind what kind of a transaction paying yourself actually is. Because when you understand that, then you understand not just how to pay yourself, but also how to invest in your business and how it works, how you can maintain a separation between your business and personal accounts and still understand what part of that is taxable and what is not, and keep your accounts separated as you legally need to do to stay protected. So this episode, the first episode, How to Pay Yourself, is so valuable. And just with a very simple understanding of one piece of accounting information, you will suddenly feel the clouds part, like, oh my God, now I get why we do it this way. And now I understand how to do it, right? So paying yourself is super important, and knowing how to do it properly and legally is also really important. And once you know this, right, it's a 20-minute episode, and then you know it forever. Right? So I am giving you the gold in this private podcast series. These episodes are all my best content like that to get you through these points of understanding in places that I see people get hung up a lot. In episode number 2, I give you the real story about why people use bookkeeping that is way too complicated, way too expensive, and serving the needs of a business that is far larger than theirs. So I tell you kind of what you actually need and what you don't need in your bookkeeping so that you can save a lot of money, save a lot of time, and keep your bookkeeping simple to take care of the needs you actually have and not 100 things you don't need. Okay, that's episode 2. Episode number 3 is about the number 1 way to build your wealth. It is about tax shelters. I teach you why these are a civic good, because ethically, that is what I really care about. These are not scammy things. This is actually something the government set up on purpose to try and help you do a hard thing. And I talk to you about the math behind why they work so well. Because I think a lot of people don't use tax advantage accounts because they don't realize how incredibly powerful they are. So I think a lot of people don't save money for retirement or for healthcare or for their kids' education because they don't realize that there are tools, literally tax incentives built to help make this easier for you. You've never seen anybody lay out the math for you about how it is really possible to do these with less money than you thought. So I'd lay out that math for you. I lay out why tax shelters exist, why they are good for the world and good for you, and how to do it. And then in the 4th episode, I tie it all together and I show you a tremendous, shocking number that you can achieve in your giant pile of fuck you money when you add all these elements together. And when you sign up for the private podcast, you'll go to go.sunlighttax.com/podcast. So just one more time, that is go go.sunlighttax.com/podcast. You'll sign up with your email. And part of the reason there is so that I can send you some carefully crafted emails alongside you listening to the private podcast. These emails I designed as nudges to help bring you along in the content, encourage you to listen, and encourage you to take action. So I have really tried to make this private podcast series something that is going to help you advance in your business and grow your wealth and security and your tax organization so that you can focus on the work that you love because you understand these key items that will make the business side easier and simpler. Okay. I've really put a lot of love into this series. It's a new thing. It's a new venture. I'm really wondering if you like it. So please send me a DM. Tell me, did you join? Do you like it? Could I improve it and how? I'm really, really interested in your feedback on this private podcast. I think it's going to be awesome for you. I think it's going to really help you get a couple things locked in now in the summer when you've got a little bit more time and freedom, and help you maintain that freedom instead of scrambling to get your taxes organized and your books together and your money saved, right? We can just get you on track with a lot more ease. And that is why I designed it. So if you're interested in these 4 golden nugget private podcast episodes, you're going to go to go.sunlighttax.com/podcast and sign up for the series. You'll get those nudge emails. I think it'll be great. And tell me what you think. I would always love to hear from you. Send me a DM on Instagram @sunlighttax. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you go forth and have tremendous focus in your work. Tell me what your big 3 are today, and I will see you on the next one. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.